Hey folks, welcome back. Well, today we're doing something new. You know, in a video not too long ago, I said that I could really use something like this. That's what I need. I need a smooth drum, self-propelled roller. And I had a viewer reach out to me and said, well, I have something like that. And well, we could work out a deal if you're interested. The problem is, it's broken. Well, that's just the way I like things. Broken and needing a little TLC. So that's the case with this. They're gonna be here any minute. We'll get it unloaded, have a chat with them, and then see what we make of it.
Dig Drive DIY!
Look at that. Travis, I assume.
Yes.
I'm Neil.
How's it going?
Very well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. My wife,
Hi.
Katie.
Katie?
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I made a video a couple weeks ago where I was out doing driveways, and I think I did my driveway then, and I said, you know what, I wish I had a self-propelled roller to really finish this off. It was really
some way to compact.
Yeah, something to make it smash it down. Because yeah, I wheel pack stuff with my tractor and it's kind of time consuming. And well, Travis reached out. He thought he might have a solution, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what do we got here?
This is a Wacker RD880.
RD880, self-propelled roller. And what did you have it for?
Paving.
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 So you have a paving company?
Yes, my brother and myself and my son.
It's got its own platform that you built specifically to be able to move it, right?
Yep. More garbage that I just kind of made stuff out of.
No, it works great though. But will the roller just drive onto that on its own?
Yes, it will. In operating condition, yes.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't.
So obviously the roller has a situation though. What happened?
My son was unloading it and sheared that center pin. And like I said, I didn't really gauge that. I didn't put a tape measure to it, but that looks to be about two and a half inches or so.
About a 2-inch pin. Yeah. So he was climbing the trailer and it just
and she let loose.
Okay. But otherwise it was running good and it was still in use when it broke, right?
Absolutely.
Well, boy, I'm excited about the opportunity. I can't wait to get it fixed and see if we can put it to use and add another piece to the arsenal. And I don't know. I think it'll be great. So.
As long as you're happy, I'm happy.
I'm happy. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks for bringing it. It was great to meet you too, and your wife. All right. Well, the day has come. Travis dropped this off a week ago today, actually. It's been sitting out back. I've stood and looked at it a couple times. Finally, yesterday I took an opportunity to get it moved into here with a skid loader. I think I've got it placed so that I can eventually pick it up with a skid loader when the time comes to try to rejoin it together. But it is severely broken. Let me give you a closer look at what's going on. So obviously, you see these two drums are touching. Well, they're not supposed to be. It's supposed to be spread apart. And then obviously this top of the engine compartment there is supposed to be level. You can see the seat and the steering wheel is tilted back looking at the sky. This thing broke right in the center. So it's articulated and it also pivots. It pivots this way and it pivots this way, and the pivot pin right here in the center is broke. It looks to be about a 2-inch diameter. So this pin is connected to the main frame through these bolts, and then it's supposed to be, you know, here's the other half of the broken part right there. We've got big Allen bolts holding this component in. We've got these bolts here holding this on. So these are the drive motors on this side, hydraulically driven forward and backwards here. I think it's got a motor on each drum, which is good. It does have water that can be put on the drums, so if you're rolling asphalt with it, it helps to keep the asphalt from sticking to the drums. And you put water in it in this tank right here, and then you can turn the water on and off back here. Travis explained to me that, you know, that's why they still call this a steamroller, because the water that comes out of here and gets put onto the hot asphalt makes steam, so it looks like a steam roller, even though that term was first derived from, you know, they were actually steam powered rollers back in the day. But this one is not steam powered. It's got a Briggs & Stratton little 2-cylinder horizontal shaft engine in here. They changed the oil and everything at 2188 and it broke at 2192. And Travis told me that they bought this new. So I'll have to figure out more about how it works, how it runs, how it operates once I get it put back together. I've got a lot of driveway jobs in the works. There's about 9 or 10 people that have asked me to do their driveways. I've been putting them off. I just haven't had time. But if I do, I'd love to take this along and save me some wheel packing time. So let's tear into it and see what we can get figured out. Oh no, dang it. Broke the bolt. I gotta tell you, that is not good. As tight as that was in there, that's not good. That's a major time setback right there. Those were not meant to be taken out of there apparently. Oh man, okay. All right, there's what it looks like, and there's that bolt that broke off right there. So you know that it broke off because it's probably galded, or it's the Loctite inside of there. So I think the only option is going to be to try to drill it out and re-tap it, I guess. Let's see how tight they are. Oh my gosh, they're incredibly tight. Holy crap. So this is a 10 millimeter Allen drive on a long-handled 3/8 ratchet. Something's moving. Oh, it moved. There's 3. This can't be in there this deep. This big 1-inch piece of a steel, it's a weldment, is on there. So I would assume that this is just bolted into this and that there's a head on the back side of this shaft right here. I'm hoping it's like a giant, bolt. But we got to get this piece out of here. I get popped right loose. Oh yeah. Oh. Oh. It's one piece. Holy cow. That's one piece. So I was hoping that this shaft was, somehow locked into the back of this, but this is all one piece. This is the shaft that's broke. Okay, here are our 2 halves. We've got the piece that we removed that's obviously broken. And then this is giving me hope because this is a bearing. So this shaft is going through a bearing, and there's hopes that we can take this cap off, and then the rest of that shaft will come out of there. That's what I'm hoping. So. Smells like gear oil. So there's 3 socket head cap screws in there. Ooh, that is some stinky grease. That's it. All right, we have figured out what is wrong. This is obviously broken. And what's interesting is you start to think about it. If this were assembled as one piece, I wouldn't be able to get those socket head screws in and out. So I'm gonna have to get this part, bolt it to the machine, and then slide this part on and bolt it to the cap. That's how it's retained on there. I'm not sure if I can go buy this part and just slap it in there and be done, or if I'm gonna have to have it machined and made up. I'm thinking I can just buy it. The question will be, what is the price? The part number is 5000.
The product is no longer available. The material is obsolete and there is no replacement material.
All right, well that just kind of confirms what I had heard, I guess. So our suspicion is confirmed. That part is no longer available. Your options are to either have the part completely fabricated, which I could. I talked to a machinist friend of mine that's willing to build the part, and that's still an option, but I'd like to try to fix it first. So we'll do that, and if that fails, we'll move on to plan B. So we went out to dinner with Kara's folks last night, and her dad and I got to talking about some possible fixes. Maybe we could come up with something on our own. So I think that's the route I'm gonna go for now. I'm gonna load stuff up and probably go over to Rick's later on today, but for right now, the thing that's bothering me, the thing I'm laying awake thinking about, is that broken bolt in that housing. Before I go grinding it off and trying to drill it out and retap it and that whole path, I'm going to try this trick. Using this and a welder, if I could take this nut, there's just a little bit of that sticking up. Put the nut on there. If I could weld the nut to the broken stud, and then right as it's still hot, try to turn it out of there, maybe it would soften up the Loctite and whatever's got it galded in there. It's a crapshoot, I'll tell you. But we're gonna try it, and then if that doesn't work, because the nut will probably just break off of that thing, is my guess, we'll move on to something else. Woo, baby's hot, the nut's hot. Let's see if it does any good. Is it gonna hold? Broke off. Okay. Well, I don't know. It's progress. It's a step in the right direction. If I had a torch, maybe I could heat up around the bolt. It moves a little bit and then it cools off and it quits. So I can't keep the stud long and hot enough. I'll have to try a different strategy. I'm not sure what yet, but my father-in-law just texted me, called me actually, and he's ready to give it a go. So I'm gonna load up those broken parts. I'm gonna take a few pieces of stock steel, round stock, and we're gonna see what we can do with an old school lathe and just two guys trying to figure it out. Okay, for those of you that haven't been with us long enough, this is my in-laws' place. They built this about 6, 7 years ago, back here in the woods. Rick built himself a nice shop. That's the shop there, and he's got, basically there's a wall that divides them and there's 2 bays. He's got a metal shop on the left-hand side here, and then he's got his wood shop on the right-hand side. And then their garage is over here. How's it going?
Morning. Pretty good so far.
Ready for a metal work day?
We'll see.
I don't know, what do you think? Do you think we can patch this up and make it work?
Well, we'll just have to get into it and find out. See if I can even get it into the chuck of the lathe. That's my first concern, just looking at it.
We're basically thinking if we could bore a hole through this, let's say like a 1-inch hole, and then put a 1-inch hole into this, and then use a pin to pin it, right? Mm-hmm. We'll stick the pin into there, tight fit, and the pin would also go through here, tight fit. Put the two together and then counter bore this even more in order to weld the pin to this piece.
Yeah.
You got a brand new fancy lathe over here?
Yeah. I think that's from 1896, as close as I can.
1896.
Figure. Yeah. And of course, in the picture, originally all of this from here up wasn't there. That was put on so that you could run an electric motor. Originally, this was the end of it, and a big strap went up to a jack shaft that run, the full length of a building wherever it was run.
But this was your dad's, right?
Yes, yeah, he bought that when I was a kid. Yeah,
wow.
Sat in the garage. He was always making something on it, and I even got to getting on it when I wasn't very old.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw it, my concern was with this length here to be able to chuck up. It really looks close as far as fitting back in there. And it just barely does.
So there's probably people watching that know exactly what you're doing, and there's people watching that have no idea what we're doing. Okay? So on this lathe, obviously this part's gonna spin under the power of an electric motor. This part here is fixed. And you can put a drill bit in here and then it works backwards of what a standard drill does. This stays still and the drill will be in a fixed position and the material you're working on turns. So I always thought that looked weird, to someone new to what a lathe does.
It's kind of backwards.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put a big drill bit in here or start out with a center drill. This is called a center drill. And this will find your center and make you a nice starting point for your bigger drill.
Yeah.
So
it's real stiff and strong so that it doesn't move around
wobble
on you,
Yep.
and you get a good start. Because if you get a bad start, the whole thing ends up off kilter.
Yep.
So that'll start you pretty true. All right, so you ready to go?
Yeah.
Got one the next size bigger.
Holy, wait a minute. Holy moly. Nice. So I need to check the diameter of our pin that we're going to put in there versus the size of the drill we're going to use so that we can get a nice tight fit, right? Kind of a pressed fit.
Yep.
All right, it's the moment of truth. We've been testing out our different 1-inch drills to see if we can get close to this 1-inch shaft. It's pretty tight, isn't it?
I'd say that's pretty good.
We're gonna need that that bigger bit, so see if we can get it the rest of the way. All right, so we've given up on the hole drilling now. We're going to the boring bar, right?
Yep.
Let's see if we can take the diameter we got out to what it needs to be, because we don't have quite a big enough hole yet for the rod we're going to stick in there. So this is a boring bar, and you're going to plunge that into the hole and take it out to the right size. So we're gonna do a chamfer there on the inside of the original part so that we have a place to weld this. We gotta bore a hole in this that matches our shaft. Just like that one right there. We're going to take a break, but we've got, I say we, I mean Rick, has got the holes bored in both the bottom half of the part and what I'm going to call the top half of the part. So here's our 1-inch shaft. That'll fit in there like that. We can protrude out 2 inches or so. And then because this is irregular, it kind of gives us a homing position. Right there. Sat down real nice that time. So we can get that back together, and what we'll have to do is we're gonna have to get this bar cut to length, weld it in here first, right?
Yep.
Trim up the weld, and then whatever's left we'll protrude through here, counterbore that so we can weld it. Yeah. So we're there. We're close. But we've had enough for today, right?
Right.
Yeah, right.
It was a battle.
It was a little bit of a battle.
Hard spots in the material really drove us nuts. Hard on drill bits.
It's about 6 hours worth of hacking on it, believe it or not.
Yeah. Luckily we had a carbide boring bar that could take that really, there was a really hard spot
ridge
in there.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna bag it for tonight. We'll be back on another day to try to wrap this up. Thanks for the help on this, Rick.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we are back for day 2 on this shaft repair. We just took the bandsaw, Rick's old secondhand bandsaw there, and got this piece cut up. That bandsaw does a really nice job. Our 1-inch piece is about 3 3/4 of an inch long. And so now we've got basically 3 parts for our repair. We've got the cut off 1-inch shaft that's gonna be the the joint or the splice between the two broken parts. We're going to call this the small part, right? Is that what we're calling that? Small diameter. And we're going to call this the large part. So what we still got to do is we've got to do a counter bore in here, so we've got some room to do a weld. We want that 1-inch shaft to stick through there, and then I want to be able to weld, have good penetration. So we're going to try to chuck this up in the lathe, although it barely fits. All right, we think we got it.
I think so.
Looks pretty good from here. So we got a really nice chamfer on there. And then I can fill that whole thing up with weld so that the shaft will be nice and securely welded to the big part. And goal is to get this piece put together, have it ready to go, and then we'll start reassembling the roller, hopefully. We don't like, well, I should say Rick doesn't like the bore and the fit of that pin in there. It's got just the slightest bit of slop. But in order to try to make everything super tight, we're going to epoxy the repair shaft, the 1-inch repair shaft. We're going to put some JB Weld on that and epoxy it into the bore. Gonna have to use the lathe, huh? Gonna have to use the lathe.
Well, now the thing is, we'll have to try to clean this out after it's in here. I would like to
You
get...
hear that air bubble?
Uh-huh.
So the reason we put it in the lathe was to kind of center the repair shaft with the center of our broken small part. So we got this all square now. And once this sets up and cures tonight, we'll take it out and hopefully weld the repair shaft to this still, and then assemble the bottom part. All right, back here at my shop, and I wanted to give this broken bolt another go. My idea this time was to try to drill a hole down into the bolt, and well, maybe that'll serve two different purposes. So I tried to mark it out as best I could. I marked on both sides of the bolt with a scribe, and then tried to find the center with a scale and mark the center of the bolt. You know how that goes. I try like crazy to get it perfectly centered, and then once I'm done and start drilling the hole with a nice solid center drill, it looks like I'm off center. But nevertheless, I stepped up a few different drill bits, got a hole bored all the way through the broken stud. But now with a hole in the broken part, I'm going to try to put another nut on top. Hopefully the hole will give me a little bit better penetration into the broken stud that's in the case. And it'll also let more heat transfer down through the bolt. It'll let the bolt give a little bit in theory, and maybe I'll be able to back it out. Worst case scenario, it breaks off again and I'll have to drill it completely out and retap the hole. Last ditch ever, but let's try welding this first again with the hole in it. Okay, come on, heat. It's still too tight, it ain't gonna work. Dang it. I tried that multiple times, made very little progress, so I'm just gonna try to grind the top of the weld off. Hopefully I can find what's left of my hole in the bolt, and we'll just see if I can drill it out and have to retap it, chase the threads or whatever. I've got this die grinder tool with a carbide cutting bit on it. So I'm gonna see if I can't really tell, but that hole needs centered up just a fudge. Oh, it's that bolt's coming out of there. The bolt itself is kind of breaking out of there now. So I'm gonna see what I can do to get that cleaned out. That tells me I'm pretty centered in the hole, that I can peel the old threads out, that what's left of the bolt out of the threads, I should say. I ordered a metric tap that's the right size, and hopefully if I can get the rest of those pieces of the bolt out of there, maybe I can just run a tap in there and we're gonna be good. But oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. That's the piece of the bolt that got drilled through. So I didn't miss it by much, the center that is. Look at, you can still see the red Loctite in there. It's looking pretty good for how it started, but that's gonna be enough for tonight. If we can get all these parts back, get everything ready, we'll be on our way. But for now, it's time to go to bed. Well, we're back over here at Rick's this morning and gonna take the small part that we epoxied out of the lathe. I think he's anxious to do that. See if that held up, and then hopefully we can get this stuff all put together today, be ready to reassemble that roller. So.
Use a brass hammer on this stuff instead of palm of my hand.
Well, it didn't move.
No, I shouldn't.
There it is. Oh man, that looks nice actually. I might have to do a little cleanup to weld in there, but probably wouldn't have to weld it with that epoxy, to be honest.
Well, it crossed my mind.
Yeah.
If you don't weld it, I would probably go ahead and epoxy the other piece.
I'd asked the viewers to comment, but we're going to be done before I get the tally back on that one. You can comment what you would have done, but by the end of this video, you're going to figure out what we did do. This is where my thinking is on this. All right, we've decided we're going to do a hybrid combination here. We're going to put epoxy on this surface because we have a void here, and that will kind of help fill that void and tighten that up. We'll epoxy those two halves together, and then once that's epoxied up, that joint right there, then we'll weld the bottom and we'll weld the break between the two pieces. One more epoxy time.
I don't have any for my workbench.
If I trusted the epoxy, it might be a good enough repair there, but we'll get some weld on there and have a hybrid of both, I think. Okay, you want to chuck that up and push it together?
Yep.
We'll let this cure for about 4 hours or so, and then we'll get it out and do our next step. For you, it'll be real quick. I have to wait. I am not good at waiting, but we'll be back right that. And just like that, it's actually been 24 hours later, and I think our parts have cured up nicely. All right, so we've got our two parts epoxied back together, and what Rick has actually done is he went ahead and cut a little bit of an indent here right at the break, and you can see, I don't know if the camera will focus, but you can barely see the crack in the original part. So we got a real good mating of the two components together. And then this part is case hardened. There's a bearing that rides here and a bearing that rides here. And when he tried to cut this indent in it with the tool here, the lathe, it was so hard that he basically couldn't cut it. You can see these blue chips right here. So didn't you use a grinder in the corner there?
I actually started with just a plain tool steel cutting bit, and that didn't last 30 seconds. So then I switched to a carbide insert tool, and I could force it to cut, but it wasn't a very good. I got what I needed in the shape with this carbide, but boy, the chips were coming off red hot. At least the case. Once I broke through the case, it wasn't bad. And the case, I talk about the case, it's just like a thin skin of hardened steel around the core. And then I reverted to a grinder just to shape it up while it was trying.
Right. We're just trying to make an indent in the very end where that break was so that we can weld it right there. And then we'll actually cut that back off with the lathe again to make it smooth, to make the bearing fit on the shaft. So we're gonna start on this side so I can get the welder dialed in and hopefully welding nice before I try to do that other side. Rick's got a Lincoln 175. So this is a 220 amp welder. A little bit bigger than mine. It's going to run a little bit hotter. Just running a nice, probably 75-25 argon carbon dioxide mix.
Yep, and it's about empty.
Uh-oh. That's welding really nice right there. It's got plenty of wire though.
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay, don't show your welds on the internet. So this was going well. This is where I widened it up and decided to try to do it in one pass. And here's where I doubled up to try to catch that edge, but that'll hold that in there, I think.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna flip it around and try to do the tricky part. And then once we get that welded, we'll turn it back down. Gonna try to make sure that my weld kind of favors the bottom piece rather than the top piece, because again, we got to turn this all back down smooth. So we're not going to have as much weld there as you think by the time we turn it back off.
Right, right.
That's why it's gouged
out. That's why
out.
I just wanted to go a little deeper with the grinder than I could do with the tool.
All right, well that one didn't turn out quite as pretty, but we're going to be turning most of it off actually. So we got to try to straighten this up and square up that corner. We'll see what it looks like when we're done. Remember, don't show your welds on the internet. It'll work. Getting it dialed in.
5. Thousandth and a half. That's close enough for what I'm doing.
Wow. 1,000th? So 0.001?
0.0015, yeah.
You just said it's at the point where you think it's functional but not pretty, right? Well, it doesn't have to be pretty, but as long as it works. This part was not to be found anywhere. Should we try to fit it up in the...
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay. Okay, I don't know how to know for sure if it sits down on there. Tighter than I thought it was going to be.
Makes a difference. Get her lined up a little. Huh? That looks better. You was worrying me. It's not down all the way.
I'm thinking it's not in all the way.
Yeah, I would think so too. I will take some measurements. I just thought maybe that was somewhat sloppy and it just dropped right in. But it's apparent it's not. So we need
I'm going to have to pry bar it out.
We need to do a little more due diligence.
Okay, so we are trying to fine tune the fit here because it didn't quite go together.
And then we'll go down to the fine one and throw her back together.
Worth a try?
Yep, I think so.
Okay. Gotta get it lined up with the bottom one. That thing wants to move on you.
It's a weird apparatus.
Yeah, it is. It moves in more places than you think it should. Oh, that fell right home.
Perfect.
Fell right in there. Did you see that?
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Bingo.
it's almost like drawing it in there.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good fit. That's a good fix. I like it. You know, that roller is never going to see the amount of hours that it has in the past bit of its life. So
Yeah.
I think we're in good shape.
Cool.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think we're finally done here. That was a great use of that lathe, I thought. And get things packed up, head over to the house, and check it out by the roller. All right, I've made it back home with the repaired part. You know what, before I can even try to put this in there and see if it fits though, we're gonna have to lift up both halves of the roller and suspend it. And then I can bolt our repaired piece on, and then we'll have to slide that yoke on there, the yellow part, and then we'll have to try to get it lined up with this side. We're gonna have the hoses to contend with. It's gonna be a pretty good effort. This won't even go on there right now. But I think we're in a good spot. I got the broken bolt here extracted. That should be good to go. I just got to run a tap down through there. I'm still waiting on that, by the way. And this is fixed. Tell me what you think of our repair. I thought it went pretty good. You know, it was a little time consuming, but we were working with an old machine, and we did it at our own pace and in our own leisure too. It was nice to have a project to work on with Rick. He's a super smart and talented guy, and I appreciate his efforts and thought into repairing that with me. I think it's pretty solid. Time will tell, I guess. It can't any more than break like it did before, right? And if it does, if it fails, then we'll go to plan B. We'll have one of these made, but I really think it's gonna be good. But that's where we're at right now. This is gonna have to be our stopping point. In the next video, I hope to get these two halves lifted up and try to get this thing back together. Then we can see if it runs, then we can see if it moves, and if it does, we'll put it to work. But until then, I just want to thank you so much for being here. Thanks for clicking on this video. I hope that you liked it, and if we're lucky, we'll see you in the next one. All right. Now, I would have thrown that whole lid in the trash with that extra epoxy, but you got a spot for it? Well, he's got a secondary repair going on over here. Oh, you're filling in notches in the wood? You're bondoing the top. Oh, he's putting a new corner on the table. Now that's the best part of the video right there. People will care more about this little repair than what I'm doing.
I've made several applications to
I see
this
that.
over
You're going to have this
months.
thing rebuilt eventually.
I plan to put Formica on top of it someday. And I could just put fiberglass in there and have it over and done with, but this is more satisfying.
Yeah. Well, now you got very little waste left on your...
Well, we have to clean that up because we need to reuse that.
You reuse the lid.